Hello. Welcome to my YouTube channel. Once again, this is Trader Chris here, and the goal of today's quality session is to do some sort of back testing on pound USD, and I would like to maybe put out how I actually approach the chart, what I look out for, and what basically I do really. And another thing I'll be really emphasizing on with this session is how I trade, which is basically based on price action. And when I say price action, I just basically mean I don't use indicators, and that's basically what I mean by price action. And my definition of price action is the creation of relative highs and lows, where you would understand that if price is effectively creating higher highs and higher lows, we can say that the market is in a bullish, we can say price is printing a bullish price action. And on the contrary, if price is creating lower highs and lower lows, then essentially we are bearish, really. And lastly, if price does not show any sign of breaking highs or breaking lows, then price is in a range. So really, that's what I have in mind whenever I trade. It's always a question of, are we bullish, are we bearish, and are we in a range, really? And those all depend on relative time frames, and which is what I'll be looking at with this session as well. Another thing I also want to mention is what defines a high or a low for me. You would realize that whenever we have, say, a bearish candle like this, if this is a bearish candle, for instance, it's common knowledge that this would be the high, this would be the low, this would be the open, this would be the close, and this would be the low. What I usually focus on, since I trade around support and resistances, is the candle closures, such that if the next candle, say, was bullish, something like this, get my joint correctly. If we get a bullish candle, say, closing beside this bearish candle, then I personally would be considering this level as a low and not the wicks. And we'll see the reason for that probably subsequently with the simulation sessions that I'll be doing going forward. So really, if we are, say, in a bullish, if price is printing bullish price action, this low point are supports for me, these high points are resistances. So again, if I go back to my definition, my personal definition of price action, which is the creation of relative highs and lows and trading around that, I could say that my definition of price action is the creation of relative supports and resistances. What time frame I use depends on how I go about my analysis for the day, and which is the major reason for today's simulation session. So what I will just do very quickly is to pick a random date, and I want the date to be fairly recent so that we can work with the recent fundamentals in the market as well, between 2018 and last month of 2022. And I'm going to pick a random date. So we'll be working with 22nd of May 2019. So if I go back to my simulation and start say new simulation, put this to New York close. I hope I have everything set, and yeah, just give me a second to walk through this. So the date is 22nd of May 2019, and yeah. Second, it's on a Wednesday. Yeah, so just to trade that week, maybe we could just start from the 20th of May 2019. Whatever this is, doesn't matter. We are trading pound USD. All right, now that we have the chart all set up, and yeah, now that we have the chart all set up, so I'll be looking at what the price action is for this day of trading, and I'll be seeing how to go about getting into a trade, for instance. So since I trade the London session, I would like to skip these candles to an hour before London open, which is this time right here. So, I mean, at a glance, you can see that the most recent momentum is bearish. By momentum, I mean you see the candles consecutively closing bearish with no form of slowdown in the action of price. And also based on, like we say, the most recent price action, you can see that effectively price is creating lower resistances and lower support. Even though we kind of change structure at this point, but price did not hold this support above, but failed and then continued down. So one can conclude that based on the daily, the price action most recent is bearish. And really, one does not need to go that far for an intraday trade. This momentum already that we have currently shows that price is pushing to the downside. So if you then look at the 4-hour time frame, for instance, so on the daily time frame, the most recent support that was breached was this one right here, and price is currently pushing to this level of support on the daily time frame. And one thing to note is that even though price is bearish, one would not want to sell at support, right? So in this case, one would either wait for break below and resistance below, or any form of pullback, then one can look for sales again. So I think that's basically the analysis. Sales make sense, but not at this price. So one would need some sort of pullback to look for sales. If you look at this on the 4-hour time frame, then the question is how far can the pullback be for the sell to still be relevant? Already we can see that we have lower resistances right here, right? So meaning if price can still pull back this deep and the sales can still be relevant long term, but if price does something like this, where instead of continuing down, then begins to hold a higher support from this previous daily support level, then one could try buys to retest that high and see if this is the start of a new range or some potential pullback on the higher time frame. So it's either price then resides in this range between here and here, or does some sort of pullback before continuing down. So currently, this level will be where I would say, okay, this will be the max pullback to still look for sales. So I'm going to point that out on the chart as well. Okay, so on the hourly time frame, we also see that there is this level of resistance on the hourly time frame that could also be some sort of level where price could push to, then one could still take further sales. Or if price begins to break below this level of support right here, then one could take continuation. So the question is, what is the range between here and here? This is 12 pips. In my opinion, it's not worth taking a trade within that range. So meaning you would prefer either the pullback option or a clear closure below this daily support before considering further sales, in my opinion. So that's really the plan. The plan is to take sales. Then you have marked the positions on the chart where one could still anticipate sales for the session. And if anything changes such that we have, say we close above this level and begin to hold support above, then one could take counter trend buys. Better still wait for support above this level to look for buys. So I'm just going to skip these candles by 15 minutes. On the 30-minute time frame, what do we have? We have this level of resistance. Okay, so we've kind of refined the old analysis from the higher time. On the higher time frame, it makes sense to buy above here. On the lower time frame, one could still buy up to this point where it makes sense to buy on the higher time frame. That's a very important statement. I'll say that again. Based on the higher time frame, this is where it perfectly makes sense to wait for higher time frame confirmations before looking for buy. But if the lower time frame is already holding higher highs and breaking above this resistance, then one can take buy to the most recent high and see if we get continuation to the higher time frame level before then playing out what is supposed to be the initial trade in the first place. So again, sell makes sense. Closing below here because of the range is not good enough. So if we pull back and begin to change structure to the downside from here, then sales would make sense. So I'm just going to skip this candle by 15 minutes and see what options we have. Price is still in a range. Price did not close below that support, so there is no trade yet. And mind you, this is a 30-minute time frame. Even if this closed in creating a support, is still in this range. So now price is trying to break out. Now, price has closed strongly bullish. Don't forget that this is the pullback that we're actually waiting for to then see if we change structure from here to continue down. All right, so it does not mean I wouldn't advise to just press sell from here. You still need some sort of further confirmation. So if we look at it on a 15-minute time frame, for instance, I'll begin to see support broken from here. I would be taking sell. So see this, price holding resistance. Now, if this next candle closes below this support, I would press sell. Good. Now, this is the idea behind this trade. I will take it again. Everything still spells sells to me as long as price stays below this level of resistance, right? Okay. Yeah, we could argue that we've just probably closed above this resistance, but I will still give this a shot because everything is still bearish. Okay. So on the hourly time frame, we also saw that we could still also maintain this level of resistance to go short. On the 30-minute time frame, it's clearer that this is a strong level of resistance. Now on the 15-minute time frame, what looks like a bullish price action is now beginning to change to the downside. So once we break this low, I'll be taking sells. So I'll put a pending order, sell stop loss above the high. If we break this low, the ultimate target would be this support, but then we could already cut the trade if we begin to measure the risk to reward at that point and then see what we have on the table. So if we break that low, we should continue down. So I think I can just keep it. The price did not break the low. Price did not break the low, and price continued pushing to the upside. This analysis still remains as long as we do not close above this level. So now we've been triggered in, so I wouldn't keep the candles again. I'll just watch how the price action forms. So yeah, we'll see how this plays out. Now, this candle is closing against us, but it's still closing below this level of support in the 15 minutes time frame. I would only be managing this trade if a candle closes above this level, else I'll still remain in this position. Okay. Now this trade would want us to hold it into NY, I believe. Yeah, what would say? Now we got stuck in a range. But one thing that is clear is that price is not breaking back into the previous range that we just broke out from. So if that is the case, then we'll be caught in the trade. Yeah, it's getting into NY session, but we'll just see how this plays out. So now I think we are back in profit, but we'll need price to really move at least to this point for the trade to be viable, really. Yeah, I see why we struggled at this price. Oh, okay, so this trade is currently roughly at 1-to-1, and I think it was a good exercise on trusting the analysis and trusting the structure, because really there was really no reason to close the trade. Remember, the whole analysis was to take sales from here after a change of structure to the downside and breaking the low of the candle that changed the structure. And this position was still valid as long as price stays below this old zone that we had on the hourly time frame. So the entry was taken, but since nothing closed back above this previous level of support on this time frame, the trade was still valid in my opinion. So now, since the trade is roughly 1-to-1, I'm going to close 80% of the trade and then watch if the remaining position can run till full PP, for instance. So I closed 80%. I'm going to put stops at break even, and I'm just going to skip the candles and see what we eventually had. Now price is rejecting from this previous level that we marked out as support on the hourly time frame. More than likely it's going to take out runners out at break even, which is peculiar to my trade. I should have just closed everything at that point. So that was a good exercise to see how we analyze the trade from the daily time frame down to where we got an entry on the 15-minute time frame, really. So that was done, and I'm going to just move to the next trading day. So today, price basically is still at the same position, and the situation currently would signify a range, and this is what I mean. So we know what this level is, right? It's on the daily time frame. It's a support level on the daily time frame, but the current momentum we have is strongly to the downside. So on the 4-hour time frame, price found is still holding this support and now got stuck at this resistance. So the current price action is a range. Now, if price is pushing down, right? Price is already pushing down and we got stuck in a range at a low point. it would be a requirement for me to first of all see some sort of break to the upside, some sort of pullback before taking buys. But for sells, if we can close below this support, like on this 4-hour time frame, breaking the low of that breakout candle could, could give a breakout trade to the downside. So this would be the two opportunities or the two options I'll be looking for in this current situation. First, we know we are going down. So if we can break support, breaking that low, we should get some sort of continuation. Since we got stuck in a range, if we are going to take a counter trend trade, I would need price to close above, hold support, then continue to the upside, if that makes sense. So this would be the outlook I would have for today. This is the 4-hour level of support right here. I mean, resistance rather. Now, what is the size of this range? The size of this range is 30 pips, right? So remember, the whole idea is to, if I'm going to take buys, hold above. But if price begins to show some sort of bullish nature from here, this is highly risky, but one could play the range to the upside. And because the range is already established on the 4-hour time frame, it's already established that price is in a range, and in a range situation, the other one to buy support or sell resistance. But in this case, sells make sense because of the overall direction. What I would have preferred really to see is that price tries to push up, fails to continue, then one could play the range from here to the downside. So this would be a classic example of a range play if that is the situation. So let's see what price then brings. And based on this time frame, also we see this level of resistance right here. In any case, just to be aware of that position, and we also have a level of resistance right here. So I wouldn't touch price in this range, to be honest. If we close above here, for instance, to take it to this point, wouldn't be worth it for me. I would rather wait for a clear breakout, clear support holding, then take much more confident trades at that point. So on the 30 minutes time frame, price is just in a range. So I'm just going to skip and see what price does. Now, this has closed below the support on the 4-hour time frame. Now, since the range was established on the 4-hour time frame, it would be safer to wait for a close below on the 4-hour time frame. But in any case, since price has closed below the 30 minutes time frame, it would be an opportunity to take continuation if we break this low. Yeah, like I mentioned previously, since price is already pushing down overall, and we got stuck at the low of the range, then a breakout to the downside is an opportunity to take sells because we're going down in any case. Now, this is such opportunity bought on a 30 minutes time frame. The reason I use the word bought is because this range was established based on the 4-hour time frame. So it will be safer to wait for a candle close in the 4-hour time frame. However, this is an opportunity. This is pre-London. It is common knowledge that there is usually high volume during this time, especially leading into London. So based on that, one could actually take this trade as well, but you will need price to break below this low for that opportunity. So I'm going to do a sell stop as well. Sell stop below this level. I'm just using stops above the previous candle high in this situation. And yeah, for targets, on the daily time frame, we have this previous level of support. So we'll see if now that would be too outrageous, to be honest. So if we just look on the 4-hour time frame and see if we can see something to the left. Yeah, there is a wick fill right here. There's a wick fill right here. So from here to here is roughly 1 to 4. So we're gonna accept this trade and see where this candle leads us. So on the 30 minutes time frame, Yeah, so this is a 30 minutes close below, and the stops were based on the 15 minutes time frame. So I'm just going to play this and see how price continues. Okay, now we've been triggered into this trade. Managing this trade is if any candle closes back above this level, or say another candle breaks the high of the previous candle, for instance. So we see how this leading up to London Open. So now this has closed bearish. This is not the strongest of closed, but it's still closed bearish. If this next candle say breaks the high, one can manage the trade or still stay in this trade for now. And price kept pushing to the downside. And just to really mention, this is a very, very, very risky opportunity. I mean, risky option, because we are basically selling at a low and we are selling a breakout, for instance. So in this case, it worked out, but just to note that this is highly risky. And I only took the trade because we had a winning trade previously, and we can see where this trade leads, to be honest. So this trade is over 1-to-1 at this point. So this is a point to make a decision really to either consolidate the position or to keep holding the trade. Since the breakout trade where you don't know where it's gonna stop, to be honest, because price is just falling, you don't know where it's gonna stop. I would want to close partial at this point. I'm gonna close 80% and then reduce the stops. So if I'm gonna reduce the stops, that should be modified. And I'm gonna skip by 30 minutes now. I'm gonna place it at break even and see if we can hit the full target. Now, since we are creating more resistances, it's not the best option, but just to lock in the trade, we can modify the stop this way and see. Yeah, we got triggered out of the trade. So that was a good breakout opportunity, and the breakout was taken because everything was pushing to the downside in any case. And remember, the trade was taken on the break of the low of the previous breakout candle. So I'm going to move to the next day. Look at that rejection. All right, so now I would have to basically do a fresh analysis at this point, okay? And what is obvious is that price did a liquidity graph from the upside, and the new support is now here. Okay, so the new range is between here, and the same analysis from yesterday still holds. Everything is falling on pound USD currently. We were currently pushing down, and now we are stuck at the bottom of the range. Okay, so if we get a breakout, we can continue to the downside. For buys, I will need candles to close above, hold support, then continue to the upside. So I'm gonna clone this. On the hourly time frame, all right? So the new range we have is actually 48 pips, which is fair enough. So if we see that this is a resistance within the range, okay, so from here to here is 22 pips. I would only pay attention to this previous level of support. It wouldn't worry me, but that's why I have it marked as a dashed line or a dotted line. So if you can close below this support, we can take sells. This looks like sells already, but the range is not much and it's way too early for me to be taking sells now. So I can still wait for candles to close below it before taking sells. Potentially, if we close above here to take buys, but preferably if we hold support above this 4-hour resistance area. Again, we'll be looking between the 30 and the 15 minutes to take an option. So just gonna skip this by 15 minutes. So this, now the difference between this and the trade we took yesterday was that this did not close below the support. The one we had yesterday closed below support. So breaking this low would not be a trading opportunity in my opinion. So I will need a clear close below this support before considering further sells. And this trade would have played out really if we took the sells from here. So now we've missed the trade. In essence, we've actually missed this opportunity because yeah, taking it from here, the range was not much, but now we've missed out on 30. But now the situation I will be looking for is a push to the upside to form some sort of resistance before looking for further sells. So you will get an opportunity to take sells. Okay, this is like a pullback. Yeah, this is really suspicious, to be honest, because if you take the trade below here, you'll be running straight into support. So it may be a no trade day, and again, I'll be missing out on these sells again, or preferably one could actually take these sells, to be honest, but this was what we were looking for in any case, holding stops below here to see if we get a continuation to the downside. Yeah, since this is risky, I'm going to reduce the risk a bit, and then yeah, take sales right here. Yeah, this is looking like a FOMO sell, to be honest, because in retrospect, these were the early opportunities to get in on sales. So selling right here looks more to me like a FOMO trade, okay, where I'm just trying to force the sales, and let's see how it plays out in any case. If I move by 15 minutes, and yeah, I got in at the very lows. Okay, so all right. All right, so in this case, the stop loss was the stop loss was right. The stop loss was not above the candles like we did previously. The stop loss was not placed above this candle, it was placed above the structure, which was right here. Okay, so since we didn't close above, the trade was still valid. And perhaps the secondary entry would be as we broke below this area, since we're already pushing down in any case. So right now, I'm actually going to close another percentage. I'll close 80% of the trade. And then bring stops to break even. So yeah, again, runners got hit at break even. I think that's enough lesson for me to just take all my profit and not give back profits in any case, because 20% shouldn't make a huge difference. However, if you compare the lot size, it could be, but really shouldn't make a huge difference. So I'm just gonna skip to the next day. And yeah, it's been 100% week so far. All right, I think this price action is really simple. I mean, it's clearer today, where you see that price is still effectively maintaining lower resistances. Okay, so meaning we are pushing down, and now we have closed below support. So let me just do spread analysis from here, but still bear in mind that we are still looking for sales, and sales really still makes sense because there has been no effective change of structure to the upside so far. All right. So this would be the new level of resistance. Okay, and this would be the new level of support. And now price has closed below. If we can just hold, if we can just hold resistance below this level, then one can continue taking steps till the next higher time frame level of support or resistance. I'm just going to delete this, and this would be the most recent resistance to pay attention to. So on the hourly time frame, yeah, price is also pushing into this hourly support. So meaning there are two ways I'll be looking for sales. Is either we hold resistance below here or we close below here to get some sort of continuation to the downside. All right. On the 30 minutes time frame, yeah, still the same price action. So for now, I'm just going to watch how the candles form to see if we can get a trade in. So I'm gonna just keep this by 15 minutes and see how the candles form. Next. All right. So this has aggressively pushed below, and let's see how it closes. It has closed below. I wouldn't be taking sales here because this is a daily support level. So perhaps there was an opportunity on the lower time frame to take sales, but since I was trading on the 30 minutes time frame, I wanted a close that looked like this. Perhaps if we had closed below here, giving us some sort of range to still play with, then an entry below this low could have been an opportunity to continue down. But in this situation, since we are already close to the higher time frame level of support, I wouldn't be taking further sales. What I would rather need to see is if price can trickle back up, then we can take sales to target this level again. That we can now move after this close, one can now move to something like the 15 minutes, or if you are really risky, the 5 minutes, but the 15 minutes for now. So yeah, so now we're pushing back up. I would like it to push up further before looking for sales. And we got stuck in a range. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Now, if we can basically, you remember the first trade we took where we held support, then break back down. If I see that situation here, then I'll be taking sales to the downside. So, okay. And now, if we close below this level of support, I think it's an opportunity to continue down. And that did not materialize, meaning there is no trade for the session. So today was a no trade day. The opportunity was, there was no way I would have taken these sales, to be honest. If we had closed below here, I would have considered sales. Buying elsewhere would be too early at this stage, even though it looks really juicy to correct this move. But I would still need to see change of structure first on the 4-hour time frame before looking for buys. All right, so the last trading day would be tomorrow, which we can just move to that already. Now, so what is the price action we have now? So remember previously we have always been pushing down where we are effectively creating lower resistances. This would have been a level to change structure, but price did not close above. So now if we can break this support, then we will be doing this, what is called a triangular flow to the downside. Again, for buys, I would prefer now listen to this. Since we have created higher support now, if we close above this, I think we can take a breakout trade to the upside. If we close below here, it was an opportunity to continue down. Does that make sense? So the situation we have now is price was pushing down. Okay. Now price tried to break structure here, but now it's doing something like this. One could argue that this is higher support, we should be going up. One could argue that this is lower resistance, we should be going down, meaning both options could be valid. If we close below here, of course, I will still be on the sell side. If we close above here, then one could try to target previous level of resistances. So that would be the situation for today. So we have this resistance right here. We have this support right here, which is this one right here, not this one, but they happen to be the same thing now. So, and we have a level of support on the 4-hour time frame right here. So on the hourly time frame, how does that look? Yeah. So we just need to pay attention to this resistance. If we get reaction from there, then one could cut the trade. Okay, so let's see what the chart presents. All right, cool. So what is the range from here to here? It's not what it. So check. Now this has closed bullish. That's kind of closed above the resistance. I think a buy stop is not a bad shout in this situation because price has closed above this level based on analysis. So if we do a buy stop above this high to target this, stops based on the 30 minutes. And yeah, I'm feeling happy, so I'm going to just risk 3% help who margin this on a Friday. So buy stop. Yeah, this is just under 1-to-1 really. So we'll see if we get triggered. Okay, now we are triggered in, and I don't like how the candle doesn't have a bottom wick. But yeah, if it closes back in the range, then one could close the trade and be out of the position. So based on how this candle close, we'll see what we'll do at that point. So let's just watch the 15 minutes. So this is the open of the previous 30 minutes candle. If this candle closes bearish, then the 30 minutes candle will be closing bearish. Now the 30 minutes candle closed bullish. This is London open, the hourly closed bullish at resistance. We might have just bought the high. We'll see. So if this closes back in the range on the 30 minutes time frame, then that's not a good sign, I believe. Yeah, I'm gonna close half of the trade right here because the candles are closing back in the range. So if we get a close or some sort of support holding now, then I can add that position back and see if we can still squeeze something out of this position. It doesn't look good at the minute, but the risk has been managed already. So there is nothing to really worry about. Oh, I have made a mistake. I put 3 lots instead of 3%. It's okay. So let's see if this trade stops us out. And this is how I do since I've closed 50%. My mind is off the trade, so I'm just gonna skip 2 minutes. All right, so I think we're back in action. No. Okay, right. Right, good. This is an opportunity to add to the position again because we are now creating support. Remember, we're now holding support and we are closing strongly. Hopefully, I don't blow this account with this trade. May the peace be with me. And yeah, we'll see. All right, so this is a good start. I think we should be fine now. Okay, cool, cool, cool. Thank you, GU. That was a quick push to the upside. And what could be learned from this trade? First, if we go back to the analysis, based on analysis, we mentioned that if we break above this high, if we close above this resistance or close below this level of support, we could take buys and sells respectively because this was really the situation. Price was pushing down. Price tried to change structure, but then got stuck in a range. So since one could either argue this is higher support or lower resistance, so breaking above here could give continuation. Breaking back below here would return the whole thing to the downside, which was the idea that was played out based on this 30 minutes close. Now, in this case, perhaps the stop loss made sense, or perhaps the stop loss could have been below this range. Maybe we're lucky at this stage. When candles were closing back in the range of the 15 minutes time frame, the risk was managed. Okay, and I just held the trade because the risk was already managed. If it hit stop loss, the risk was already managed in the first place. So, and now since we now closed back above this same position again, I added a secondary trade, and which I'm gonna close right now. I actually closed the wrong position, which happens a lot. So yeah, we'll close 80% of this and put stops at break even, and then see. Yup, that was a good call. That there was a good call. Perhaps I could have just closed the whole position. And why did the trade reverse from here? It doesn't have to reach this resistance really. It got really close and yeah. So that's it, guys. I hope you learned something from this simulation session. Feel free to pass your comments or your questions in the comments section. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and because it helps the algorithm, like they all say. So see you in the next one. Trade safe and stay blessed. Cheers.